Good morning.
Good morning.
So good to be here. I missed you guys,
Oh, we have missed you too.
but I must confess, I went down to the Headlands this morning and I already feel all churched up. I was thinking about 2017 the other day, right after the Tubbs fire swept through Santa Rosa and caused so much damage and suffering throughout our town. And I remember driving down the street when they had finally opened my state park and I just wanted to have my feet on the ground of my favorite mountain. So I was driving through the stretch, it's Highway 12 for those of you who know Santa Rosa, and I hadn't been down there since the fires, and the fires I had known had come straight down the highway. And so it was my first time meeting this part of the damage that had been done. But before I got there, I had turned on the radio and it was early November and I heard a Christmas carol. And after it played, the DJ said, "I know this is early, but we need some Christmas now." What was so interesting is I love Christmas music. It's always been a spark in my life. I carry that over from my childhood. It makes me happy. So I was driving and singing and feeling this joyous experience. And then I came upon the devastation of the fire. I saw houses, and all that remained of the houses that got hit by the fire was a foundation and a chimney. Everything gone. Shells of cars that were really just rusted metal, everything else burned out. And the ground black, and the trees and all the undergrowth gone. And I just felt that grief of what we had all experienced. But what was interesting to me, and it was so palpable for me, is that at the same time, I could still feel the joy. And it just sort of danced and swirled together, this deep grief and this amazing joy. And I thought about that as I was preparing to come up here and do this talk right before Christmas. Because right now I know people who are in that festive space of shopping and wrapping and decorating and cooking and partying. And I know people who are going through devastation in their life. People that are in grief. I have a friend that left town because she couldn't imagine spending that first Christmas at home because she just lost her beloved. I know someone who's about to lose her beloved brother. I know someone who's losing their marriage right now. That's really just the nature of life, and holidays happen in the midst of all life. When we talk about the solstice is a point in time, and it really is that mingling of darkness and light. It's what we live in. It's just the nature of life. So sometimes we think that we're here as religious scientists just trying to get to the happy and the nice and get better lives. But really, what we're being called to do is meet our life where it is, to meet ourselves and to open. The talk title today that was given to me was The Incredible Light of Being. But I love that idea of looking at light, because what we really know when we stop to think about light, it's not this sparky, nice thing of love and fluffiness inside of us. It's not something we manipulate around us. I had somebody say to me the other day at the center, "Oh, you don't need to wear a mask, just surround yourself in white light." I mean, I grew up in the 60s, so I know all about surrounding yourself in white light. But when she said that to me, I thought, I live in light. It lives within me. You know, we're recognizing that we're connected in ways that we can't even see. So that incredible light of being is the very nature of being. And it holds our joy and our grief. It holds us in good times and hard times. And we're here as community, and we come back as community to support each other and hold each other through this time of living in human forms, in human lives, because aren't they human? We don't get to escape human. And so we're here to recognize, what does it mean to be a spiritual being or to live spiritually in a life through a human body? And as Danny's saying about, it's that greater seeing, it's that opening to a greater realization that beyond what I can see, there is that one source, that one life that's infilling us and surrounding us all. So I'm not creating life, and I'm not trying to get to light, and I'm not manipulating light. I'm clearing the darkness of my thoughts and ideas and old beliefs. I don't get to create just good beliefs so that life will just be good, but I can clear away that's not true, the same way the clouds dissipate. I had a really palpable experience on the way up here today. I was driving up 128, and I've been doing this for decades, actually. And so driving up 128 is like driving down the street in my neighborhood. I love it. You know, I have a stick shift, an old stick shift car, and I'm just, boy, you give me some corners and some hills, and I'm excited in my little car. But I hit 128, and it got foggier than it already was on 101. And I noticed I was being very cautious, maybe more than I used to be, just cautious. I was driving a lot slower than I usually drive on 128. And I was just really paying attention. And all of a sudden I turned a corner and the fog lifted and it just became clear. I didn't do that. The fog lifted. And I immediately started going 20 miles faster than I was going. I'm not speeding, I'm just driving, and I'm not limited. I don't get scared of driving on that road, but I felt free. And I thought that's really what we're doing, is we're recognizing how it is we're navigating what we're aware of. We're working with our own ability to see. We're clearing our own view. And what came to me was what we know, and we know this from scientists and talking about light and what we're actually aware of physically and visibly in the world. But we know this from our teaching and from the great mystics, that we don't see the nature of our wholeness and the oneness. And so the thought that came to me was, we don't ever really know what's right before us. We never really know what's around the corner. Is that not true? We don't know what's going to happen this afternoon in our lives, or even in the middle of this service. And we certainly don't know what's happening and what's really so with the people that we meet. We don't know the whole story. And even bigger, we don't even know what's happening in the world, the whole story of what life is unfolding. And so having just driven through the fog and having it clear, I thought, since we know we don't see the whole picture, best we proceed with caution. Best we move forward carefully and mindfully wherever we are. Isn't that the call of our teaching? Isn't that the practice? To let love be our guide. To let kindness be our guide. Because we just don't know the whole picture. I was talking to a friend of mine who is going through a horrendous challenge. She's got this physical disability that's showing up for her. She's younger than me by about 10 years. Her partner is developing dementia. My heart just goes out to her. I would not wish that upon anyone, what she's having to deal with day to day, because now she's the one who's having to handle everything, and yet she's not fully equipped to handle everything in their lives. And so she called me up the other day and she said, I'm having a bad week. I just need you to know I'm really, really sensitive. And I started talking to her and asking her questions and just meeting her there. And she said, I'm feeling so overwhelmed because it's Christmas time and we haven't even decorated it. We're not being able to do the parties we used to do. And I just feel so isolated. And so we just explored it and talked about it. And I talked her back to being present with herself. Recognizing that we put on layers that are not necessary. Does anybody have a story about how the holidays should be and have disappointment, hurt, anger, frustration show up? Because how life is how life is. And so I supported her. I couldn't fix the condition that she was actually going through in her body and with her partner. But we can take off the ideas and the beliefs that are not our truth. I heard Reverend Edward down in Santa Rosa the other day. He was talking about on the subject of flow. Yes, and even here, we're talking about the subject of flow, and he started talking about hidden beliefs. Everybody here has heard about hidden beliefs, and we're working with our hidden beliefs. And while I was talking, I was thinking, the real hidden belief that we're working with, and this is from Ernest Holmes himself, the only thing we're really shifting and dropping is this idea, this experience that we're separate. There is no light here and not light here. There's just this light. Light doesn't really come and go. Light doesn't live in you and not in someone else. You with me?
Yeah.
We're recognizing a greater truth from what we can see, because I'm not generating light in myself, and I don't contain the spiritual light of being. It is what and where I am, as it is what and where you are. It's why Danny's so beautifully saying, I see myself in you, because we're really all made out of that. We have layers upon layers of ideas. And our biggest idea and layer is, I'm separate from you. We add nuances, or not even nuances, big gross ideas on top of that. My being is better than your being, or my being is less than your being, just made up. And so we're taking those old ideas off. We're inquiring what's really true here. And so when my friend finally put all the stories down about how holidays should be and what she's not doing, she just talked about her sense of isolation. She can't get out the way she used to be able to get out. She can't invite people over and host the way she used to. And so we talked about that isolation, and I said, I am here on Christmas Day if you want to call me. And she said, oh, Ruth, I don't want to bother your celebration of Christmas. And I heard those words. And I thought, what is Christmas for or about if it's not to support ourselves and each other in our lives? What else is Christmas for? I can't think of something better to do on my Christmas Day than to love anybody and everybody who needs a helping hand in that day. Isn't that the message of the holidays? I think about this, the speech of Marley, and I love it every time. I probably say it every time I come up here. You know what Marley said to Scrooge about our job during the holidays and in our lives. Humankind is our business, The common welfare is our business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence are our business. The dealings of our trade and enjoyment, I added that, are but a drop in the water of the comprehensive ocean of our business. We're here to be that expression. We're here to open up beyond our sense of separation, to allow life to shine its light through us. Now, I celebrate you in your celebration of life. This isn't about giving away our enjoyment. So often when I've been engaged in conversations or I hear people talking about this idea of letting go of the ego or surrendering the ego, you know, as Ernest Holmes says in talking about Christmas or in spiritual practice, it's not even about the Christmas holiday. He says when the human gives way to that Christed nature, when we stop holding on to the me of what I want and what I don't want, and give over to the awareness that something bigger is happening, then we simply are shining more of who we are. And I think there's this inherent fear of what happens to me. Well, I promise you, I have worked this work with a lot of people and myself, and I have never seen anybody go up into the rapture. And if you go up in the rapture, I'm sure it won't be a problem. Because that not holding on to the ego does not take away that you have a unique personality. It doesn't take away your wants and desires. It doesn't take away your pleasure. It just loosens the grasp and allows us to feel more fully what is. When I was walking on the headlands this morning, I was thinking about the people I'm holding in prayer that are going through such incredible pain right now. And I was also walking in this sense of glory. And just like my experience with the grief and joy driving down Highway 12 right after the fire, it wasn't, oh, I'm so happy and I feel so sad about these people. It was this experience of the glory and the rapture and the beauty of life. And that knowing that there's suffering all over the planet. And they're just hand in hand. And so we hold that in our hearts. We open our hearts and we allow life, kindness, love to inform us. What's before me? What's mine to know and do? Sometimes we reach out because we need support, because we need a helping hand, because we're lacking in need of something. Something's hurting in our lives. And sometimes we show up because we're in the fullness and we just want to extend that out. Because we are one life. We are one planet. We are one humanity. And we are one life and light. So really, when we come back to the center, we're doing what Jim spoke in his prayer. We're remembering who we are. We come back to remember, because we all get caught up. I do, maybe some of you don't, in thinking I'm this separate self, my ego, my flailing of this and that. Anybody besides me? I know somebody's out there. You know, that we get caught up in this disguise. As Ernest Holmes said when he said that line of we're only healing or the appearance of separation, that understanding that it is an appearance, but it's an appearance we have been taught to believe. Our eyes tell us it's so. Our senses all inform us of separation. We're here to see more clearly. We're here to open up, to see more surely of what's here. And my best advice is proceed with caution. Move with kindness. Listen from on high to that love, that light. That's everywhere. It's not your light. It's not my light. It's our light. And so whatever you celebrate in this holiday, and I love the solstice, but I'm not a pagan. I love the story of the Christed being. I know that's our interpretation of Jesus being born as a savior, as a messenger of love, really is what he was. I love that story, but I've never been a Christian. I love the story of the miracle of the oil in the temple lasting beyond what it was supposed to last. But walking on the headlands and sitting with my friends in grief, I recognize that life is always a miracle. And we're just listening more deeply to that miracle. We're trusting more that it's right where we are and it's right before us, no matter what is happening. For me, that's really what the holidays are about. That's why I like the music. That's why I like the lights. I remember when I was an adult, my mom having this conversation with me, and it was Christmas time, and so I was telling her about just putting up my tree, and she said, you know, your dad and I, we worked really hard to make nice holidays because we knew that we weren't good parents the rest of the year. I couldn't argue with that. So what I said to my mother was, well, you did a good job. You did a good job. I love the holidays, not because they were particularly a happy time, but because there was a spark of light. I'm not sure as much now today as when I was a kid, but I love the holidays because there seemed to be this holiday spirit in the air. People would pass that you didn't know, and there was a greeting, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. There'd be smiles, there'd be patience. I was thinking about, and I think about a lot actually, the prayer of Saint Francis, let me be an instrument. We are an instrument. We are an instrument of the divine. And so our work is to clear and clean our instrument. So we're a more shiny, more loving, more open expression of that divine. That's really what our spiritual practice is. And it's working through us all the time. So it's not about getting perfect. In fact, the best thing you can do with your imperfections is acknowledge them. We're not trying to not be human. That doesn't make us more Christ-like. We're recognizing, oh, this is the package I'm living in. This is the circumstance I'm going through. I couldn't pray away the fog this morning. So it was what I was navigating with. My friends can't pray away their big conditions, but they're navigating through it. And so we come here together to remember and to listen. How am I navigating? Because if we don't stop and listen, I know what we navigate through. We navigate through our story of, I don't like this or I want this. Do we not? Because that's just how we were wired. So we come back to remember it's okay to be human. It's okay to have habits or do things that we might rather we didn't do, or somebody else might rather we didn't do. But we're not beating ourselves up, judging ourselves, fixing ourselves. We're coming home. And that's what the holidays are for me, that coming home to our true nature of being. So I'm going to end with my favorite Christmas story, and I know probably all of you've known this, and a lot of you that have been coming through the years have heard me tell this story. It's a true story. It's a story that took place during World War I on Christmas Eve night. And the soldiers were in their trenches, and the fighting had just got quiet. So it was, I think, in France. And so the French Allied soldiers were in one trench and the Germans were on the other side. And the sentry was just listening and watching. And everything was still. And all of a sudden, there was a sound, and the sentry perked his ears up. Listen, what is this sound? And at some point, he recognized it as a song that he knew, sung in German. It was Silent Night. And not long after that, in looking and watching and listening, he saw a white flag as a group of soldiers came towards their trench. And the soldiers got out of the trench and they met in this field. And they shared their drink and their rations. And they shared pictures with each other. And they sang Christmas carols, each in their own tongue. And I hear tell they lit flares and played a soccer game. And then as light started coming, they each went back to their trenches and war resumed. But one of the soldiers reported, he said, now when we look through the sight of our rifles, we no longer see the enemy. We see brothers and fathers, sons and uncles. And so really that's the invitation of the holidays, is to look anew, to listen more deeply. And as Danny's saying, to see if you can't see yourself, that light in the person before you. You may recognize your humanity in that person before you, even that part of the humanity you don't like. And then come back to that one source, that one light, that greater presence that's always here, being, informing, unfolding through us. That it may be our guide, that light, that love, that one. So I invite you in to this practice we call prayer, or spiritual alignment, affirmative prayer, whatever you call it. It is a coming home to that truth of being, that there is one life, one intelligence, one light shining in and through and as all of creation right now, creating, recreating brand new. Moving every particle, breathing every breath, turning every planet as it turns this new day. Everything moving, shifting anew right now. This one power, presence, source, called by many names. God, Spirit, the divine, the ground of being. It is beyond all human knowing, perception, beyond all human ideas of this and that, good and bad. It simply is life. And so I take this time to simply come home in conscious awareness with this one presence, recognizing it as the very life of my life, the breath of my breath. It is all that I am, everywhere I am. And it is that lives and breathes as each and every person here today. Each and every one hearing this word, and each and every one with whom we share life. For there is only this one. And so I simply come home and know this truth for and about us, for and about each individual, for and about those we hold near and dear, for and about this world. I know there is an intelligence, a power, a presence beyond anything I know, and I know that it is wholly present here, unbroken, not missing, not lacking. And so I recognize this. I allow it to clear the fog of my mind, to soften that grasp on any idea, belief, and to open to that greater presence right here, that peace beyond human understanding, that one light, that one love, that is the very life, the very truth of each and every one. For it is what is. It is never missing. In every human condition, in every thought, every feeling, it calls us home to this truth, to this knowing, to this felt sense of this embrace of life. We are held, we are supported, we are sustained by that one that is breathing this breath anew. And so I simply give thanks for this knowing. I give thanks for this call home in conscious awareness. And in this gratitude, in this deep assuredness that this is known and done by that one, I simply let go. I let this be, and so it is. Amen.